Welcome to Rad2, another daily reader for Reddit. Like and subscribe for daily Reddit videos. Serious, what was your biggest "we need to leave now" moment? When I was about 16, I went to visit my grandmother at her place. The smell of natural gas was intense. Even though Nana didn't seem to notice it much. She was groggy, sort of half asleep, not her usual responsive self. So I made her get out of the house at once and open the windows and doors. I called Dad and he reported it to the gas company, who sent inspectors right away. They shut off the gas valve in the street immediately and sent a repair crew to fix a leaking joint in the gas supply pipe. The inspector said that if I hadn't acted then and there, the probability was great that there would soon have been an explosion. Fantastic job. And thankfully you all got out fine. Just some advice. Please check with your gas company or your local fire station on what their suggested actions are if you suspect a gas leak. I'm only sharing my old fire company's advice and your local station may have differing advice. We advise to not open doors or windows, to immediately vacate the building and call emergency services once safely outside. The reasoning for this is gases have an upper and lower explosive limit in which they may combust. Meaning if the air-to-gas ratio falls above or below those limits, they will not combust. Opening the windows and doors may introduce oxygen needed to fall inside those limits. Plus, spending extra time running around opening windows and doors keeps you in a very dangerous situation for much longer than you need to be. Without a meter, you do not know what the gas-to-air ratio is and if some automated electrical system like the compressor on the fridge or a light switch will provide a spark to detonate the mixture. Again, this was only my department's SOP, but we preferred everyone to vacate immediately and let us make entry. In fact, the circumstances are so volatile and unknown during those calls. Our procedure was to kit fully up with our breathing systems on outside, stand outside the closed front door, and take a reading. Depening on the reading, we'd open the door and take another reading. Depending on that reading, then we'd make entry. Depending on the reading, leave the door open or closed behind us. Take another reading in the first room and then determine if conditions favored a room by room. Search for the leak, or if they were too dangerous we'd evacuate and attempt to vent the house from the outside. Again though, thank goodness you recognized the situation and saved your grandmother. My dad was a firefighter. He'd say make sure your smoke alarm and co-detector have working batteries and test them regularly. Make sure you have an outside meeting point for the family if you need to run out in a hurry. And get a fire extinguisher for the kitchen and garage. Still to this day we get a phone call on daylight savings to check our smoke alarms with him on their phone. Lol. I've wrote about this before. I was in a mall in Indonesia and two tourists seemed to be having problems communicating with the cashier at a bookstore. So I helped translate. They wanted to buy me drinks to thank me. Told them it's not necessary and I have to get back to my mom soon. They told me to meet them for dinner. Told them I have to have dinner at home. They told me to sneak out and meet them after dinner. At this point, a bookstore staff noticed something was wrong and went up to question them. My sister and I dashed off while they were distracted. Continued wandering around the mall and realized they were following us. To see if we were just paranoid, we ducked into a lingerie store since we figured two men won't usually need to go lingerie shopping together. They followed us in, ran so quickly back to the jewelry store our mom was at. The store had intimidating security guards and I guess that stopped those guys. I was 11, my sister was 10. Yep, that's pretty terrifying. They wanted to buy me drinks to thank me. Told them it's not necessary and I have to get back to my mom soon. They told me to meet them for dinner. Told them I have to have dinner at home. They told me to sneak out and meet them after dinner. That was already such a big red flag. The moment a stranger is acting too cool, that too with a child, you run. Unfortunately, so many children worldwide fall victim to these kind of crap. And I cannot even imagine what they do to them, what the child has to go through. 1 in 4 victims of trafficking are children. This alone explains a lot. You can read more here also. Consider to help kids when possible. Keep your children safe. You all. Edit. Formatting. Who the frick offers to buy children drinks? Wasn't married. Was not as serious. But had a similar thing with a friend. He had been going on and on about this girl he was into and making progress with. We're all at a party and he introduces us. We chat. And he walks off after a bit. She says she thinks I'm cute and is DTF. I'm like oh and tell her she's hooking up with my best friend. She says, well, if I wasn't hooking up with him and said I wanted to frick, what would you say? Found my friend and told him what happened. They dated for 5 years after that, which was freaking weird AF. Surprise, surprise, she wound up cheating on him with several of our close friends. Oh damn, that sucks. Good on your husband for telling you, though. And you for trusting him. Too often this kind of thing doesn't get dealt with because people don't want to cause a fuss. Or the other person just thinks they're trying to start crap. Did she deny it? You don't need friends like that. Good on your husband. Showed up to a party. Some people were outside fighting. My GF at the time, and I decided to leave. Not long after that, some guys that were part of the first fight came back with more and a shooting occurred. Were we at the same party? At mine, I had left to go rest in my car across the street from the house when two rival gang members started brawling on the I near my car. I texted my friends, we got to go. Couple seconds after heading down the street, we heard gunshots. No, these ones weren't gang related that I recall. Just hot-headed groups and alcohol. I really hate to say this, but as someone who likes listening to police scanners, this happens more often than you would think. Can we get the longer, more detailed version of this? Woodstock 99. Felt the energy of the grossly overpacked crowd, the building rage, and looked to my friends and said we need to go. They stayed. I left. Shortly after, fired and riots started and my friends lost everything they had with them. Tents, clothes, food, everything. When you have 300k people shoulder to shoulder in 104-degree humidity and charge $4 for a bottle if water and have half as many bathrooms as needed, you're gonna have a bad time. I was going to post the same. We were thick in the middle of the crowd during the RHCP set when people started lighting fires. I grabbed my friend and dragged her out of there back to the tent. I barely slept that night. Things had been rowdy at certain points before that, but this felt different. It makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up just remembering it. Same kind of experience, but Roskilde 2000 Pearl Jam concert. Reality of it all hit us only the next morning, with about 500 missed calls from our parents. The memorial grove for the victims is beautiful. While I can see the appeal of a big festival like this, even a well-organized one is a nope from me. That was too big a crowd for me to feel comfortable in. I remember seeing them raise the price of water as the heat went up. Started at $4 per bottle, which was an outrageous sum at the time, and went up as high as $6. WS99 survivor here too, went with my GF, now wife, and another couple. We really wanted to see RHCP, but didn't care for any of the other bands on the last half day of the show. We left that morning and got stuck in 8 hours of traffic. We intended to make it all the way home that day, 6-hour drive, but with the traffic we were exhausted and found a motel room in NY at dusk. Turned the news on to see the riot, fires, and 24-hour plus traffic jam. That concert organizer should have gone to jail. We were underage, and beer was cheaper than water, which we had no problem buying. We left because we were broke just from trying to survive. The water and restroom situation alone was criminal. Remember the blue mud people? In the original Woodstock, it rained and people played in the mud. At WS99, they knocked over the porta potties at the top of the hill and people started flinging blue-tinged sod in the air. Everyone leaving Dave Matthews Band looked like a Smurf but smelled like Gargamel. Good times. WS99 fellow veteran. If you were there when the Frisbee cases were broke open, that was pretty memorable as well. Not sure if they were free or supposed to be purchased, but many people were whipping Frisbees straight into the air. Imagine several hundred just raining down around you. Too many to keep track of. That sounds somewhat dangerous, but as the Frisbees hit the pavement they would crack. Imagine that. Then they'd get whipped in the air again. Now you're dodging Frisbees raining down with sharp edges. Looked like a Smurf but smelled like Gargamel. This is just fantastic. So they were happily throwing shit at each other. Dude, people were eating it for the MTV cameras. Met this cute girl at a party. Spent the whole night dancing and flirting. Offered to drive her home and she agreed. We were making out in the car in front of her house when another car pulls up with their headlights beaming at us. I ask if that's a neighbor and if we're blocking their driveway. She replies, no, that's my husband. Husband's car door opens and I knocked the frick out of there. Dropped her straight back at the party and never saw her again. Her excuse was that they were separated and he shouldn't have a problem with it. I sure wasn't sticking around to find out. Edit. Holy crap, that's a lot of upvotes. I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing everyone's similar stories. Thank you all. You and I have a similar story with very different endings. She went to a party to find someone to kick her ex-BF's butt. AskReddit. I didn't know about this part until after. I just went home with her to smash. I pulled into her driveway and a car blocked me in. And 4 guys pulled up on me. I had no idea what was going on. And before I could get 2 words out, one of them smashed a 40 ounces bottle over my head. Somehow I managed to stay on my feet and put up enough of a fight. They ran off. Likely had a lot to do with all the blood. My socks were soaking wet. So she wanted you to kick her ex's ads but didn't tell you that. Did you go to the police? So I was waiting at the train station to pick up a friend of mine. I was early, so I decided to stand in the sun right outside of the station. A guy with a bicycle walked up to me asking in broken English if I knew how late the train would arrive. After I answered the question, he stayed around and started talking to me. Now I know that's not weird at all, but the things he asked and the way he acted and looked just gave me a creepy vibe. Eventually he asked if I would walk with him while he dropped his bicycle. I didn't want to because the place to store bicycles at this station is very secluded, and to be honest, I didn't want to be alone with this guy. So I knocked out and walked into the station. He started yelling at me, calling me names, but at that moment the train came in and it got very busy. So he left. A few months later I read this article in a local paper about a girl being raped at the station. They had put a drawing of a guy next to the article as he was not yet caught. It was the same guy. To this day I'm very happy I didn't go with him. Edit. Changed my special way of speaking bicycle to the correct way. That's literally me when any stranger talks to me. IGTFO. I've been traveling alone in Europe and it's ridiculous how often men approach me. I'm 100% sure they see me as an easy target. A woman alone and a tourist. I've gotten to the point that as soon as they get, "I saw you from over there and you're so beautiful," that I just respond, "Sorry. Not interested." Literally happened yesterday in Paris. I'm not that attractive that I expect to be approached by random guys. I'm also not that insecure that I'll fall for their lame speeches either. In Belgium they were worse though. They kept trying to get me to go and get a drink with them. Like, thanks but no thanks. I'll just stay in this nice and public place. I don't care that it's only 15 minutes. I'm not following you anywhere. I prefer to be paranoid and dead assaulted. My mom taught me that it's far better to be an alive B-word than a polite dead girl. I was walking along the sidewalk one day and a guy with a windowless van pulled up beside me and said he would give me a bottle of water if I got in his van. It was summer and rather hot. Nope, level 1. I declined and continued walking. And the guy started shouting and screaming and beating his steering wheel, yelling over and over again, it's free, how can you say no to something free, noob. Level 2. I got to where I was going, which was only a few blocks farther, and was a gas station, and had a lovely drink there while talking to the cashier who was a friend and reported having the exact same situation happen to her. Noob. Level 3. By chance I was still there. Well, back there, late that evening when the shifts changed and the incoming cashier reported strange windowless van idling in the back corner of the lot, out of the light. Nope. Level. Call the police reached, but as it happened, a rather sizable dude was in the area. Overheard us swapping stories, and announced he was gonna go take care of it. IDK what happened, but none of the 3 of us ever saw the van, the driver, or the big guy ever again. I hope you actually did call the police. Him being scared off is just making sure you're protected. Letting the police know, and getting the reg number, might be protecting others in future. Yeah, IDK. Big guy was adamant that we not call the cops. TBH, he was almost as scary as van guy. The cops were called, but by the time they showed up, guy plus driver plus van had vanished into Never Never Land. None of us dipses remembered the plate number. Best I could do was green numbers on white background, which made it out of state. I walked my friend home cause I knew a safe route to get back to where I was saying that I was absolutely sure a creepy guy in a van wouldn't be on. Maybe big guy was waiting with van guy for you to come out. Don't trust people. Remember fast face, smile and see if one side of the face droops. Arms, raise both arms. Does one arm drop down? Speech, say a short phrase and check for slurred or strange speech. Time, if the answer to any of these is yes, Call 911 right away and write down the time when symptoms started. That was really observant of you, and good for you for taking those symptoms seriously so promptly. About 2 months ago I'd stayed up past my usual bedtime, and as soon as I got in bed I smelled something odd and was hearing some inconsistent banging and clattering from downstairs. I don't live in a great neighborhood, so none of this was unusual, but I got out of bed to check anyway and saw flames licking up the side of the building. Yelled at my wife to get out of bed and threw on some clothes, and we hightailed it out. Our building has a shed wall with the next, and that one had an apartment on the ground floor. Fully engulfed by the time we made it outside. Ended up condemning the whole building. I was the first one to call 911. Have been jerking myself awake in the night pretty consistently since then. I don't live in a great neighborhood. When I was 7, our next-door neighbor came pounding on our front door to scream at and threaten to kill my dad, because our pet that we kept in our backyard was being too loud. The pet was a rabbit. A rabbit. Life can just be weird at times. The owner of a Mexican restaurant threw 2 young farm workers at the bar out to the parking lot. They were drunk as monkeys and proceeded to try to fight, but mostly just leaned on each other, all in front of the picture window while the place is full of people. Then one runs to his trucks and burns rubber out of there. I said, "Time to go, honey." She says, "What? Those buttholes aren't done, and I'm not going to be here when the shooting starts." We left. It did. Not long after. Edit. If you want eat authentic, go where the farm workers eat. Misa speaks Spanish. These guys have been escalating the bull crap for a while. Their blood was way up. I threw 320s on the table and got on out of there. You said it like shooting was common. It isn't common, is it? Is it? It is in my town. I wouldn't even stick around for the fight, tbh. We hit a 5-year record last week when we went 2 weeks without a violent crime or homicide. Hooray for Illinois. What's the etiquette on leaving immediately when you still have to pay? Do you just overpay in cash and walk out? Don't carry cash. Gotta flag down the waiter and tell them you're in a rush, I guess. If you have cash, leave it. Otherwise say, "I don't feel safe, I'm leaving. I'll come back to pay later," and just leave. I don't give a frick about paying a tab if I'm thinking a shootout is about to happen. It would be better, imagine if the police rolled up to get a statement about someone leaving without paying, right as the drunk driving lunatic pulled up with a gun. And that is 100% legal, if your intent is to pay, but can't at the moment. It's hard to get charged with defrauding an innkeeper. It's a civil matter, not criminal. Went on to friend's house that I had slept over at a couple times already. He left the room and noticed something under his pillow. Lifted it to find a handgun. We were 12. I stupidly even pick it up to see if it was plastic, confirming that it is metal and reasonably heavy. I grab my crap and tell him I need to leave, but he stops and tells me it's a BB gun. He's spray painted black. I stayed, but these days I question the truth of that situation. He could have easily proved it. I suspect you were right. Every gun is loaded with deadly bullets until you personally clear it. Even then, never point it at anything you don't want destroyed, or anything behind that. Thanks for watching Rad 2. Like and subscribe for daily Reddit videos. If you like these videos, check out the original Rad channel.